recall it for before the examinations. Now coming to this here, these are the topics which are present in the fifth unit. So like in the examination point of view, final examination, they will be giving you about the piezoelectric transducer, and apart from that, along with that, you will be asked to write about Hall effect transducers or fiber optic sensors. So like that, 2 to 3 sensors will be combinedly given, like A, B, C fits for a long answer type question. And most of the cases in your mid examination also, there is a lot of chance to give a short type of questions on the sensors and transducers, all these things. Okay, so fine. These are the contents which are present in your fifth unit. The type is piezoelectric transducer, and in this piezoelectric transducer, we will be learning about the basic principle of the piezoelectric transducer, and after that, we will be learning about what are the piezoelectric acceleration transducer, what are the applications, what are the advantages and disadvantages. Similarly, Hall effect transducers. So Hall effect transducers are nothing but what are the basic principles of the Hall effect, what is a Hall effect, what are the different types of parameters available in this. So while using these particular transducers, then definitely you should have an acquire a theoretical knowledge regarding the sensor or regarding what is the transducer you are using with, because in your IoT or robotic applications, most of the cases you will be dealing with the sensors. So whenever you are writing the code for these particular, that means you have to now able to operate a particular robot. So in order to move that, you will be using various types of the sensors. So in order to make a sensor, or in order to make an acceleration or a position sensors, if you are using all these parameters, in order to make a movement for these, you need to write a code depending on its knowledge. So for that reason, there is a chance, or definitely there is a need for understanding these particular theoretical concepts of sensors and transducers. So like that, there are smart sensors, fiber optic sensors, film sensors, and there are various microelectronic mechanical systems, that is MEMS, and similarly nano sensors and digital transducers. So all these are the topics which we are going to discuss in your fifth unit. Now coming to this first part is piezoelectric transducer, as I told you. So before entering into this, first of all, what is the meaning of transducer? So I think as of now, because already the 4 units have been completed, so as of now you might be having an idea regarding what is a transducer. So just I want to, before starting, I will just recall within one sentence what is a transducer. A transducer is a device which will convert energy from one form into another form. So what do you mean by conversion of the energy from one form into the other form? Is whenever, suppose if you are taking an example of a sound system, so the sound energy is converted into the electrical energy. So that is one of the case where you will be calling the transducer is converting the energy which is in the form of a sound into the electrical energy. So that means nothing but the sound is converted into the voltage, or sometimes again the voltage will be converted into different types of the parameters. So that is what a transducer. And what is the sensor? What is the difference between the sensor and transducer? Because as after studying the whole subject, you should have aware or you should have a thorough knowledge of what is the sensor and what is the transducer. So do you think both are the same? Obviously, the purpose may be the same, but there will be a difference between a transducer and a sensor, because a transducer is constructed internally with respect to a sensor and an actuator. So that means in order to operate a sensor, it requires a transducer. That means first part of the sensor circuit is a transducer. So that transducer will be able to convert one form of energy into another form. So after the transducer, then the next part in the circuit is you will be placing an actuator. So these terminologies may be a little bit new to you, but every day, most of the cases, we will be using these terminologies. So actuator is one where the physical, whatever the movement which is happened by the transducer, that means the energy conversion is happened by the transducer, that has to show to the physical world. So how that movement is shown? With the help of the actuator. So a transducer internally consists of a sensor internally consists of transducer and an actuator. Okay, so already we have completed these in the past 4 units. Hope you got a clear, thorough understanding. Now coming to this fifth unit, we will be entering into the syllabus. The first type of the transducer which we are going to learn is a piezoelectric transducer. Okay, and once again I'm giving you the information. If any students are interested to join, you can just put them a message so that immediately they will join, and they will also get benefited, because after completing the video or after completing the class, you might not be able to understand very clearly if you read the notes completely, because this is what where once if you listen, then automatically your half of the part will be over. You can easily write the exams by once just checking and go through the topics. So while explaining the class itself, it is very easy to get knowledge into your minds. And coming to the piezoelectric transducer. So the name itself indicates piezoelectric transducer, means it is a kind of transducer which is having a piezoelectric mechanism. So what are the piezoelectric materials available? So first of all, in order to construct this piezoelectric transducer, so how do you construct this piezoelectric transducer? There are certain materials that generate electric potential or voltage. Okay, so electric potential or the voltage, when mechanical strain is applied to them, or conversely when the voltage is applied to them, they tend to change the dimensions along the certain plane. This effect is called as the piezoelectric effect. So hope you cannot understand. Once again I'll tell you. So in order to construct a piezoelectric transducers, first you will collect some materials, because what is the type or what is the mechanism where the piezoelectric transducer will be implemented is certain materials which generate the electric potential when mechanical strain is applied to them. That means when you press, or piezo means the word itself indicates the meaning of the word piezo means press. So continuously whenever you are pressing or whenever you are giving a mechanical strain which is applied, and where you are applying on that particular piezo materials. So what are the different types of the piezo materials also we will see, but on a particular piezo materials, if you apply continuously the mechanical strain, then what happens? The voltage is, when the voltage is applied to them, they tend to change the dimensions. When continuously strain or when continuously the pressure is applied on the piezoelectric material, then automatically it will change the dimensions along the certain plane. So this effect where it is changing its dimension is called as the piezoelectric effect. So hope you understand. Are you getting my point? So if you are unable to understand, you can just ask me so that I will explain once again. So this effect was discovered in the year 1880 by Pierre and Jacques Curie. So in the year 1880 itself, the scientist has been found that this is what the property it is having. The piezoelectric material, whenever you are taking and when you apply force on that, or when you apply some strain on that, then it is changing its shape. So that is called piezoelectric effect. So coming to this, now I told you what is a piezoelectric effect. So here are the two types of the effects, where one is called the direct effect and other is called the reverse effect. What do you mean by direct effect? As I told you, just the mechanical strain whenever you are applying on the piezoelectric crystal, then it produces a voltage. So that is what here clearly it is given. See, this is the sound vibration which is applied on this crystal, so that whenever continuous sound vibration is applied on this piezoelectric ceramic crystal, immediately an electrical signal can be generated from this. This is called a direct effect. So that means the sound is converted into the electrical signal with the help of the piezoelectric crystal. And similarly, reverse effect means what? Whenever the electrical signal is being applied on this piezoelectric crystal, then it has to again convert into the sound. That is nothing but reverse effect. So applying a voltage produces a mechanical strain. Here what happens is, on the crystal we are applying some sound vibration, say a tuning fork. Most of the cases in your physics you might be studying. So whenever you just bring a tuning fork and when you beat it on the material, what happens? Suddenly it will produce the vibrations, and continuously whenever you are doing that, it is producing an electrical signal. So similarly, when the electrical signal is being given to this particular piezoelectric crystal, then again it has to convert into the sound vibration. So that is nothing but whenever you put a mic and then when you just mic near the piezoelectric crystal, then easily you can hear the sound which is coming by the electrical signal. So this is called reverse effect. So this is what the piezoelectric effect will be. So hope you got very clear idea regarding the piezoelectric effect. Now coming to the, with the help of this piezoelectric effect, based on that effect phenomenon, here we have developed or we have constructed the piezoelectric transducer. What is a transducer here? Converts one form of energy into another form. So the piezoelectric transducers work on the principle of piezoelectric effect. So when the mechanical stress or the forces are applied to some materials along the certain planes, they produce the electric voltage. So clearly you can see here in the diagram a piezoelectric disc which generates a voltage when deformed. I means whenever you are applying an electrical voltage signal on that particular piezoelectric disc, what happens here? The change in the shape is greatly exaggerated. It means either it will be expanded or contracted depending on the voltage or depending on the stress you are applying. So in this case, this electric voltage can be measured easily by the voltage measuring instruments. Now, whenever a pressure or whenever a mechanical stress is applied on the crystal, we are telling that it deforms its shape. So, whenever it is deforming its shape, it is indicating that some electrical voltage is being generated. So, how much voltage is generated? So, that will be in order to understand how much voltage it is generated whenever a mechanical stress is applied on the crystal. So in order to measure that particular voltage, here we have placed a voltmeter terminals, okay, where the two voltmeter terminals are given to the other two ends of the crystals. Okay, so the positive voltmeter and negative voltmeter terminals both are given in order to measure the voltage. So that now what is that voltage it is giving is how much force you are applied or how much mechanical strain. See, in most of the cases you cannot know, you cannot measure the strain or you cannot measure the force. Can you measure the force without these particular implementations or without this? Just suppose if you are just applying the force on some particular object, so how much force it is generated, how you can measure? So for that, these are all the simple instruments which are being generated. Now you may be getting an idea that question that what is the need to measure the strain or what is the need to measure the force. So there are a lot of applications where the piezoelectric transducers are being implemented. So what are the different types of the applications? So before going into the applications, first we will see what are the various piezoelectric materials you can use for constructing the piezoelectric transducer. So the materials used are the barium titanate, lead zirconate titanate, and Rauchley salt and quartz. Most of the cases in your physical or in your environments, you will be seeing a quartz crystal, so that you will be using in order to demonstrate or in order to construct the piezoelectric transducers, you will be using a quartz crystal. So the quartz crystal is having most of the cases a property that whenever a pressure or when a force or mechanical strain is applied on this quartz crystal, it immediately changes its dimension. So that is what the quartz crystal is being implemented in the piezoelectric. Now if you can see the diagram here, the piezoelectric quartz crystal microbalance and the scheme of vibrations. So if you can see here, this is a quartz crystal. Okay, inside you will be having a quartz plate and the metal electrodes are being placed on the opposite sides, and here you will be having a wire holders where you have just here, these are the contacts. Now with the help of this contacts, you will be able to apply the pressure or the mechanical stress or the mechanical strain is applied on this. So what happens here, when the pressure is applied, immediately these wire holders, with the help of this, the crystal will start rotating. So continuously whenever the strain is applied, this crystal will start rotating, and when it is continuously rotating, what happens here, immediately the metal electrodes which are being placed on the plate on the around the quartz crystal plate will be having a positive and the negative terminals, because as it is electrode, so it consists of a positive terminal and a negative terminal. So due to the continuous vibration of this quartz crystal, there exists an electric field which is generated. So in order to measure that electric field, here these are the two wires which have been implemented. So these wires will be able to indicate whenever you measure it with respect to some voltmeter, so how much voltage is generated. So that will be able to measure with the help of the piezoelectric material. and this is the thickness shear vibration of the quartz crystal plate. See what happens here, whenever the continuous pressure is applied on this, instead of this the dimension is being changing like this. That means here whenever it is continuously rotating or when the plate is moving, what happens, see it is moving from here and here again. So whenever it is coming back and going forward, then there exists an electric field which is generated. So that electric field will be able to measure in terms of the voltage. So if you can see that these belongs to Rauchley salt and the quartz will belong to the natural group, and all these belongs to the synthetic group. And here is your description of the piezoelectric transducer. That means when the force is applied, it is converted into the voltage. Okay, and directly proportional, charge is directly proportional to F. So in order to see, this is your piezoelectric crystal, and when it is continuously moving, it is changing its dimensions. So this is a positive electrode and negative electrode, and this will be given to the amplification or the amplifier for charge, and that will be able to, in terms of the, that means the charge here Q is directly proportional to the force applied. How much force you are applying, that much charge it will be able to generate. So as it is directly proportional, so here Q is directly proportional to F. So Q is equal to D into F. How do you know D, or how do you calculate D? D here is nothing but how much dimension it is changed. So in order to identify that, D is equal to, from this you can write Q by F into C by N. What is C by N here? Charge sensitivity, which always you will be using as a constant terminology. So whenever you want to measure the dimension, that will be nothing but the ratio of Q, which is charge by the force. If you find out this into constant, then you will be getting the value of how much dimension it is being changed. And sometimes there is a chance, like if you want to find out the force, okay, and there is a charge given, charge value is being given and dimension is given, then you can find out F is equal to Q by T. So like that you can do mathematical expressions for the piezoelectric transducer. Now coming to this construction and working of a piezoelectric transducer, the figure shows a conventional piezoelectric transducer with a piezoelectric crystal inserted between a solid base and the force summing member. You see the diagram here, this is what the crystal, okay, so this crystal is being attached between a base and between the force summing member. So between these two we have placed a piezoelectric crystal. So if a force is applied on the pressure port, okay, so this is what the pressure port here. So whenever there is a force applied, what happens, the same force will fall on the force summing member. See, say suppose here the force summing member, you can imagine like you are between the spring and between the base you are attaching the piezoelectric crystal. So what happens when the pressure port at the pressure is applied, this spring will be immediately brings the piezoelectric crystal to have some force on this crystal. So what happens, automatically this will be get compressed. So thus a potential difference will be generated on the crystal due to its property. What happens here, when there is pressure applied, this will be compressed, otherwise when the pressure is released, so immediately it will release. So continuous operation of this will be generating an output voltage inside this. So that is nothing but measuring the force. So the voltage produced will be proportional to the magnitude of the applied force. So how much force you are applying is directly proportional to the magnitude. So as just now I have shown you that in terms of charge, Q is directly proportional to F. Here also, instead of Q charge, here we are applying force. So force is directly proportional to the voltage produced will be proportional to the magnitude. How much force you are applying, that much output voltage you can draw from this crystal. So clear? This is the construction and working of piezoelectric transducer. Now coming to this next one is the piezoelectric acceleration transducer. So you might be getting an doubt that, so what is the disadvantages in the case of piezoelectric transducer? So there are a lot of applications where simply with respect to the crystal and with respect to some force member and with respect to the base, you can implement a piezoelectric transducer. But what happens here is, the quartz crystal, the property of the crystal, how long it will remain whenever you are establishing a piezoelectric transducer, how long that piezoelectric transducer will be remaining or will be retaining its originality. Obviously, for long days or long hours, or if you are using several years a piezoelectric transducer, then automatically it will not be used, or it will not be generating that much quality output. Now coming to this, the other type of the piezoelectric acceleration transducer. So far you have observed is a piezoelectric force transducer, and this is about piezoelectric acceleration transducer. So the design features of an acceleration transducer will follow the pattern of a force transducer. So both will be the same except for the addition of a proof mass for developing the force under the acceleration impulse. So that means the same construction, but here instead of force transducer, what is the difference is a proof mass will be generated. Here if you can see the diagram, okay, a proof mass will be used for developing the force under the acceleration impulse, and the single crystal or the piezo pile is pre-stressed by screwing down the cap. This is what the cap. Okay, so continuously by rotating the cap up and down, this will be having a force which is generated on the proof mass. And if it is a ceramic material element, the pre-stressing renders the system more linear in its characteristics. So you can see the characteristics of this particular piezoelectric acceleration transducer. It is of more linear. That means continuously when force is applied, the voltage increases. That is what the basic thing. Okay, so in the diagram also you can see that the linear range, how the linearity will be. So force versus voltage. So what happens here? As a force, you can see on the x-axis a force and y-axis consists of a voltage. So when the force is increasing, the voltage also increases. So continuously how much linearity depending on how much force, how much voltage. So like that. Second thing is the transverse sensitivity of the system must be minimized by means of a strong guide springs or a diaphragm. An acceleration transducer compensated for the transverse acceleration inputs. So there are various types of the acceleration transducers or acceleration inputs where you will be using with respect to the piezoelectric. It is nothing but to make a displacement, to make just a movement, you will be using this piezoelectric acceleration transducers. So however, for transverse acceleration, the output signals are made to cancel each other by orienting their y-axis. So what happens here is in the diagram or in the characteristics, if you can see, more pressure is applied here, more continuously it is the voltage is increasing. So what happens as this continuous output voltage is being implemented, so on the y-axis if the voltage is more increasing more and more, what happens, obviously there exists a piezoelectric crystal which can completely damage because of the high voltage which is being generated. So in that case what it needs to do is, that is what the third point is, the two independent seismic systems are so connected as to yield the additive output for the acceleration in the desired direction. For transverse acceleration, the output signals are made to cancel each other by orienting their y-axis. That means more and more voltage is generated, but if it is going completely beyond that because of the force, then immediately it has to pre-stress. That means nothing but it has to again come back to some position, or it has to decrease it with respect to the spring. What happens, suppose when the spring is continuously applying the force, then it will be compressed, and slowly when you are releasing the spring, what happens, if the force will be released. So in those cases when you are releasing the spring, automatically it pre-stresses the force. So that is how you can manage the piezoelectric acceleration transducer. Coming to the advantages of the piezoelectric transducers, rugged construction and small size, high output with negligible phase shift, and excellent frequency response. Obviously it will be consisting of excellent frequency response because of the voltage is generated, and the limitations or the disadvantages are these piezoelectric crystals are water soluble, hence in a high humidity environment it gets dissolved. So you can take a piezoelectric crystal and you can construct a piezoelectric transducer, but this type of transducer or these piezoelectric sensors if you are using under the water environment, then obviously these crystals will get dissolved so that it cannot be able to use under the water. So that is what you will be using. And similarly it is temperature sensitive, and then it can be used for the dynamic measurements also. So it can be used for the dynamic measurements, and it is very sensitive. So these are the disadvantages. Now coming to the applications of the piezoelectric transducer. So this is used for the measurements of non-electrical quantities such as acceleration, vibration, sound intensity, and dynamic pressures. So the piezoelectric transducer is widely used in the aerodynamics, supersonic wind tunnels, in the study of extremely high speed phenomena such as explosions, bomb blast, etc. So most of the cases the piezoelectric crystal, as you know, that when continuously the force is applied, okay, immediately it will be generating the voltage which will start or which will make a movement continuously to generate the acceleration or to generate the movement. So for that you will be using these applications in the acceleration, vibrations, and in the aerodynamics. You can use in the supersonic and in the wind tunnels, for such as explosions or the bomb blast. Also you can use this piezoelectric transducers. And also other than that, it is used in ultrasonic non-destructive test equipments, ultrasonic flow meters, micromotion actuators. So in the case of ultrasonic flow meters is where depending on the sound, okay, ultrasonic sound, we cannot hear the ultrasonic frequencies, but depending on the frequencies, the internal vibration or internal sounds will be produced, and based on that automatically you will be able to generate the voltage. So only you can measure the voltage outside physically by placing a piezoelectric crystal inside the ultrasonic flow meters. So mostly you will be finding all these instruments in the instrumentation labs, ultrasonic flow meters. And similarly it is also used in the spark ignition engines and electrostatic dust filters producing high voltage and low current electric power. So there are a lot of applications with respect to these transducers and the sensors, where if you want to implement a real application or a real time project, then automatically you can know that what is the construction, what is the function, what is the property, how it will behave in that environment. And after knowing all these things, then only you can take that component and you can implement in a manner where you want. Okay, now coming to the second type is the Hall effect transducer. But before going to the Hall effect transducer, I'll just show you the video of this piezoelectric transducer in order to understand more clearly. So just in order to make you understand clearly how the piezoelectric transducer look like, I have just found this video to be interesting. So are you able to see? Are you able to see the screen? Just respond. See, it's better that if you can respond with your voice, so that every time I need to check. Okay, so I will just play this video of piezoelectric transducer and then we will go for the next.
ट्रांसड्यूसर के वर्किंग कंस्ट्रक्शन में ब्रीफली एक्सप्लेन करने वाला हूँ। तो चलिए वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे व्हाट इज ट्रांसड्यूसर। आज की इस वीडियो में इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रांसड्यूसर की वर्किंग कंस्ट्रक्शन को ब्रीफली एक्सप्लेन करने वाला हूँ। तो चलिए वीडियो को स्टार्ट करते हैं। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल हम लोग डिस्कस करेंगे व्हाट इज ट्रांसड्यूसर। तो ट्रांसड्यूसर एक ऐसा डिवाइस है जो कन्वर्ट करता है एनर्जी को वन फॉर्म टू अनदर फॉर्म में। फॉर एग्जांपल माइक्रोफोन स्पीकर पर एटसेट्रा। पीजो इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रांसड्यूसर। तो पीजो इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रांसड्यूसर को पीजो इलेक्ट्रिक सेंसर भी कहा जाता है। पीजो इलेक्ट्रिक ट्रांसड्यूसर का खोज 1880 में पीरी क्यूरी और जैक्यूज क्यूरी द्वारा किया गया था। यह ऐसा डिवाइस होता है जो पीजो इलेक्ट्रिक इफेक्ट का यूज करके एक्सेलरेशन, प्रेशर, स्ट्रेन, टेम्परेचर और फोर्स क्वार्ट्ज क्रिस्टल होता है जो सिलिकॉन और ऑक्सीजन से बनकर क्रिस्टल स्ट्रक्चर एस आई को सिलिकॉन डाइऑक्साइड फॉर्म होता है। नेक्स्ट अब हम इसके वर्किंग को समझते हैं। तो जैसा कि वीडियो में दिख रहा होगा, एट नॉर्मल कंडीशन यानी जब क्वार्ट्ज क्रिस्टल पर कोई प्रेशर नहीं होगा, कोई दबाव नहीं होगा, तो इस समय कोई चार्ज इंड्यूस नहीं होगा। अकॉर्डिंग टू ब्लॉक डायग्राम, सबसे पहले प्रेशर पोर्ट के थ्रू प्रेशर अप्लाई होगा, फिर फोर्स समिंग मेंबर टोटल प्रेशर को कंसंट्रेट करता है और इलेक्ट्रोड के थ्रू क्वार्ट्ज क्रिस्टल को सप्लाई करता है। पीजोइलेक्ट्रिक क्रिस्टल इलेक्ट्रिकली न्यूट्रल होता है और जैसा कि फिगर में आप देख सकते हैं, इसके एटम्स भी सिमेट्रिकल अरेंज्ड नहीं होते हैं, बट इसके इलेक्ट्रिकल चार्जेस वैलेंट रहते हैं। तो जब इस पर प्रेशर अप्लाई होता है तो क्रिस्टल का स्ट्रक्चर डिफॉर्म होने लगता है। डिफॉर्म होने के कारण पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव चार्ज अनबैलेंस हो जाते हैं और एक दूसरे को कैंसिल आउट नहीं कर पाते हैं, जिसके कारण नेट पॉजिटिव और नेगेटिव चार्ज इंड्यूस होता है। तो ये भी पीजोइलेक्ट्रिक इफेक्ट का कंस्ट्रक्शन और इसके कुछ एडवांटेजेस और डिसएडवांटेजेस भी हैं। एडवांटेज ऑफ फर्स्ट पॉइंट है इजी टू हैंडल, तो स्मॉल डायमेंशन होने के कारण इसका यूज हम लोग नहीं भी कर सकते हैं। सेकंड है हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी रिस्पॉन्स, मतलब हाई फ्रीक्वेंसी को भी इजीली हैंडल कर आउटपुट प्रोवाइड करेगा। डिसएडवांटेज, इसमें फर्स्ट पॉइंट है लो आउटपुट, तो लो आउटपुट प्रोवाइड करने के कारण इसमें हम एक्सटर्नल सर्किट लगाते हैं जैसे कि आउटपुट हमारा इंक्रीज कर जाए। सेकंड है क्रिस्टल कैन बी ब्रेक इन ओवर स्ट्रेस, मतलब अगर यदि इसमें ज़्यादा फोर्स अप्लाई कर देंगे तो क्रिस्टल डैमेज हो सकता है। फ्रेंड्स, आई होप वीडियो आपको बहुत पसंद होगी, वरना कोई दिक्कत नहीं होगा।
Okay, so that is what the piezoelectric transducer, and coming to this continuation. So I just heard some of the students. I'll just send you the link. It is very easy to understand. Maybe there are no subtitles, I think so. Okay, so now you got clear idea about piezoelectric transducer at least. Give some response. Whatever I told, just I have shown you in the video, which is exactly related to this particular theory part. Yes or no? See, what happens to your mic, I don't know. Okay, good. So now coming to this next part is Hall effect transducers. So we will just go to Hall effect transducers, the second part, which is before going into this, we will again see what is Hall effect. In the case of piezoelectric transducer, in order to implement that particular construction, we have used a piezoelectric phenomenon. And here also, you will see first what is Hall effect. So most of the cases, you remember one point that this Hall effect transducers are simply used to detect the magnetic field. Wherever the magnetic field is present, in order to detect that, you will be using Hall effect transducers. So when a current carrying conductor is placed in a magnetic field, a transverse effect is noted. So whenever a current carrying conductor, there are lot of various types of the conductors available. Okay, so whenever a current carrying conductor is placed under the influence of the magnetic field, what happens? Automatically this magnetic field also will be having an effect on the that means the conductor will be influenced because of this magnetic field. So that is called a transverse effect is noted, and this effect is called as Hall effect. And this Hall effect was being discovered by the scientist Hall in 1879. And the Hall found that when a magnetic field is applied at right angles to the direction of the electric current, an electric field is set up which is perpendicular to both the direction of the electric current and the applied magnetic field. So what happens, in other words, in a standard way, whenever you can define the Hall effect is when any specimen carrying a current I is placed in the transverse magnetic field B. That means if you can see that always whenever an electric current is flowing through a conductor, there if you place a magnetic field, Okay, if you place a magnet there, what happens? Automatically the direction of the electric current which is flowing and the direction of the magnetic field, when you see both these, automatically it is perpendicular to each other. So from the physics in your intermediate level, I think so, you might be studying this. Always the magnetic field and the electric field will flow perpendicular to each other. So this phenomenon is known as Hall effect. So in this figure, if you show a specimen bar which is carrying a current I in the positive x direction. See, you can see here in the diagram clearly, x direction is nothing but that is the direction of the current. So we are placing a specimen bar, nothing but a magnet in which the current is generating, which is going into the x direction. Let a magnetic field Bz be applied in the positive z direction. It means along with the z direction we are placing a magnet. Then according to the Hall effect, what happens? See, just a simple thing is, basically in order to understand more clearly, you can just take an electric wire, okay, which is already there, the power supply whenever you are given to that, and near to that electric supply when you go and place the magnet there, what happens? The direction of the electric current and the magnetic flow will be always perpendicular to each other. And apart from that, what it happens is, a force will get exerted on the charge carriers in the negative y direction. So because of these perpendicular direction here, x and z both are perpendicular direction. Z is your magnetic field and x is your electric field. So when both these are perpendicular to each other, in this case what happens is, the force will be exerted due to the charge carriers. Here magnetism is producing some charge carriers and electric field is also having a charge carriers. So when both of these charge carriers will try to come together in the negative direction, these will try to flow. That is, the electrons or the holes which are coming together between these two directions will be able to flow in the negative y direction. And this current I may be due to the holes moving in the positive x, or due to the free electrons moving in the negative x direction through the semiconductor specimen. That means this magnet, after placing a several time or after placing for a few amount of time in the influence, under the influence of the electric field, what happens? It will automatically try to get an electric field, or it will also try to attract the charge carriers. So these charge carriers which are present in both of these fields, the electrons or holes, will get multiplied. See, what is electricity or how the current is generated? Nothing but the flow of the charge carriers. So when these charge carriers are flowing, what happens? These get passed downwards towards the phase 1 of the specimen. So that means these charge carriers completely, they will be increasing in number, because one side electric field and other side is a magnetic field. Now both will be having the charge carriers. So as soon as the charge carriers are increased, then it starts passing towards the other direction, which is called as a downward direction, nothing but y direction. So hope now it is clear about Hall effect. So in terms of the equation, you can write it as EH, that is nothing but the voltage generated due to the Hall effect, will be equal to KH, that is the constant potential of Hall effect, into I, that is the current, into the magnetic field by T, that is the time. So just here we have placed a magnet between the electric field. Just take a wire, electric wire, positive negative terminals will be there. It will give you a power supply, and for this magnet, if you attach that power supply, then what happens? Automatically this magnet, okay, it will be having two poles which will be able to attract these charge carriers. So as soon as the charge carriers are being attracted by this magnet, see what happens here, the influence of the magnetic field, slowly the charge carriers will try to move on that particular magnetic field. And when you place the magnetic field, what happens? There are a lot of charge carriers which are being developed, and again whenever you measure the voltage on the plate, then automatically there will be a current which is being generated due to the field of nothing but due to the Hall effect phenomenon. Now this is one example or application of the wheel speed sensor. In order to know this magnet, here you can see the diagram that this is the Hall effect sensor which is placed between the magnet and the wheel speed sensor. So when it starts rotating, that means here you can see the shaft between each, that is these are the teeth of the motor, or these are the teeth of the wheel speed of the wheel. So between each and every teeth you will be having a gap here. So when this starts rotating, what happens? It will take from here to here. So automatically this magnet will be having this. This is a permanent magnet which consists of North Pole and the South Pole. So this trigger wheel will start rotating whenever this magnetic field or when this Hall effect sensor will be able to acquire the electric field which is generated by the supply here. So this is the supply, and for this magnet you are being given under the influence of the electric field, and when this Hall effect will be able to generate the charge carriers or the current, and due to that this wheel will be able to rotate. So when this wheel is rotating, and as it is a stepwise rotation, so automatically you will be generating a square wave. So if you want to see what is the type of the waveform it is generated, then if you want to place a CRO or any type of the monitor, then you can see this type of waveform, square waveform, because in between this teeth and this teeth you will be having 0, and when it is here then it is considered as 1. So all ones and zeros you will be generating the square wave. So this is one of the application. Okay, now coming to this Hall effect transducers are the transducers in which Hall effect is utilized to measure the various electrical or non-electrical quantities. So various types of the electrical quantities or as well as non-electrical quantities are also you will be able to measure. And commercial Hall effect transducers are made from germanium or other semiconductor materials. So these are all nothing but the different types of the materials used in the constructing of the Hall effect transducers. The following are the applications. One is the displacement measurement. Hall effect transducers may be used to measure a linear displacement to locate a structural element in cases where it is possible to change the magnetic field strength by variation in the geometry of a magnetic structure. That means linearly also you can make the displacement, or else you can also have the circular displacement, whereas in the case of a spring or in the case of a wheel you can see the circular movement, but whereas in this case in the example you can see the linear movement which will be happening. And regarding that description it is given, this is nothing but the second one is a current measurement applications. The Hall effect transducer can be used to measure current in the conductor without interrupting the circuit and without making electrical connection between the conductor circuit and the meter. See, sometimes what happens even in the circuits, there how much amount of voltage is flowing in that particular part of the circuit. If you want to know that, then you will be placing a terminals or you have to make a connection for the ammeter. But instead of that you can also place a Hall effect transducers there, so that it will be able to generate how much current is flowing through that particular circuit. DC or the AC current flows through the conductor. It sets up a magnetic field around it, and this magnetic field is proportional to the current. And a Hall effect transducer is inserted into the slotted ferromagnetic tube which acts as a magnetic concentrator. So this voltage produced is directly proportional to the current flowing through the conductor. So automatically you will be having some terminologies where you need to describe some formulas for that, like B is a magnetic field, and here in this you can see that VH is nothing but the Hall voltage. So okay, automatically you will be having a hysteresis phenomenon also which will be generated in the Hall effect transducers. So this Hall effect transducer is nothing but how much amount of electricity or how much amount of current will be generated due to the influence of the magnetic field is being known. So that is called Hall effect transducer. So this is about Hall effect transducers. And before going into the smart sensors, I will just play you some more other video.
directions make your writing mistake-free, while keeping it short, sweet, and fitting in tone. Join
Just really Hall effect user.
Hello, Danielski here from howtomechatronics.com. In this video, we will learn what is Hall effect and how Hall effect sensors work. The Hall effect is the most common method of measuring magnetic field, and the Hall effect sensors are very popular and have many contemporary applications. For example, they can be found in vehicles as wheel speed sensors, as well as crankshaft or camshaft position sensors. Also, they are often used as switches, MEMS compasses, proximity sensors, and so on. Now we will go through some of these sensors and see how they work, but first let's explain what is the Hall effect. Here's the experiment that explains the Hall effect. If we have a thin conductive plate as illustrated and we set current to flow through it, the charge carriers would flow in a straight line from one to the other side of the plate. Now, if we bring some magnetic field near the plate, we would disturb the straight flow of the charge carriers due to a force called Lorentz force. In such a case, the electrons will deflect to one side of the plate and the positive poles to the other side of the plate. This means if we put a meter now between these two sides, we will get some voltage which can be measured. So, the effect of getting a measurable voltage, as we explained above, is called the Hall effect, after Edwin Hall, who discovered it in 1879. The basic Hall element of the Hall effect magnetic sensors mostly provides very small voltage of only few microvolts per Gauss, so therefore these devices are usually manufactured with built-in high-gain amplifiers. There are two types of Hall effect sensors, one providing analog and the other digital output. The analog sensor is composed of a voltage regulator, a Hall element, and an amplifier. From the circuit schematic, we can see that the output of the sensor is analog and proportional to the Hall element output or the magnetic field strength. These type of sensors are suitable and used for measuring proximity because of their continuous linear output. On the other hand, the digital output sensor provides just two output states, either on or off. These type of sensors have an additional element, as illustrated in the circuit schematic. That's the Schmitt trigger, which provides hysteresis or two different threshold levels, so the output is either high or low. For more details how the Schmitt trigger works, you can check my particular tutorial for that. An example of this type of sensor is the Hall effect switch. They are often used as limit switches, for example in 3D printers and CNC machines, as well as for detection and positioning in industrial automation systems. Another contemporary applications of the Hall effect sensors are measuring wheel speed or RPM, as well as determining position of crankshaft or camshaft in engine systems. These sensors are composed of a Hall element and a permanent magnet, which are placed near a tooth disc attached on the rotating shaft. The gap between the sensor and the teeth of the disc is very small, so each time a tooth passes near the sensor, it changes the surrounding magnetic field, which will cause the output of the sensor to go either high or low. So, the output of the sensor is a square wave signal, which can be easily used for calculating the RPM of the rotating shaft. Thanks for watching, and for more tutorials, visit my official website, howtomechatronics.com.
Okay, so hope you understand what do you mean by Hall effect transducers as of now. Yes or no? Yes, anybody can respond. Are you there? So far we have learned two types of the transducers. One is a piezoelectric transducer and another one is the Hall effect transducers. And similarly, the next part in this fifth unit is about the smart sensors. just show you what are the topics. Piezoelectric transducer is completed, and next is Hall effect transducers, and similarly smart sensors. Third one is smart sensors. If possible, we'll stop with the smart sensors, and later we will discuss about fiber optic, film, MEMS, and in one class we can complete these other topics, because all these are very small topics. Okay, now coming to the smart sensors. So a sensor, what do you mean by smart sensors? Nowadays you will be calling various types as smart systems, okay, in IoT applications, various types of smart cars, everything. So in that, what are the different types of the smart sensors you are being using? So a sensor producing an electrical output when combined with interface electronic circuits is said to be an intelligent sensor. See, in general, whenever you call, where you call it as a smart sensor or a smart devices is when it takes the decision by itself. So these are also called as the intelligent sensors. Okay, so when it can take a decision, that means based on the output produced. Here, this sensor producing an electrical output when combined with the interface electronic circuits, it is said to be an intelligent sensor. That means when this particular output is combined with various types of the circuits, then it itself has to take a decision. So if the interfacing circuits can perform ranging, calibration, and decision making for the communication and utilization of the data. So what do you mean by ranging? If the interfacing circuits can perform ranging means here what? Within that particular range it has to operate. Suppose if you can take your like your AC, then if you are able to put one particular voltage like 22 like that, then that is one particular range where you have set for that particular device. So that device, that electronic circuit which it is interfacing, in order to help that range to be maintained, is called as the controllers. So here these smart sensors will be using various types of the controller mechanisms, okay, like your microcontrollers or various types of the microcomputer. These will be able to help that particular device has to maintain a particular range. So that is called ranging. And similarly, calibration means whenever an output is being measured, then automatically it should be able to, that means number of times, even though you are using that particular electronic output, so each time the measurement has to be very accurate. So it does not has to change each time whenever you are measuring the temperature or some other parameters. So in that case, that is called calibration. So that means these smart sensors should be able to monitor along with the operation. It also has to monitor the ranging, it also has to monitor the calibration and the decision making for communication and utilization of the data. So that means apart from taking the decision, it also has to communicate with the other external environment, and it also has to utilize that particular data which is coming from the external environment. So all these are the particular terms which are being taken into consideration. So both the sensors and the actuators are used as intelligent components of instrumentation systems. So obviously in the first starting I told you that both the sensors and actuators are always interfaced together. So in order to use this particular smart sensor, the sensor is always connected with this respect to the actuator. That means based on the sensor's output, the actuator has to take a decision. So when both of these are combined, then these are used as an intelligent components for the instrumentation systems. And in fact, they are used as a field devices. And here the block diagram of one such intelligent equipment is being shown in this particular diagram. See what I told you, sensors and the actuators, both of these are has to be used in the intelligent or in the smart sensor, are used in the smart communication systems. Okay, so in fact they are used as a field devices. So what it consists of? First, sensor interface, and it consists of a signal condition. What do you mean by signal conditioning circuit? Here suppose you will take a sensor, a temperature sensor you can take. There are a lot of temperature sensors like thermistor, thermocouple, all this. So whenever you are placing a thermocouple in the heater unit, it will sense the temperature. Then that temperature is not enough. That means The sensor alone itself cannot do any operation. It can just receive the information or it can just collect the information. But in order to amplify that and drive the information which is collected by the sensor to the other parts of the units or other places, in order to drive this, what we use is we use the signal conditioning circuit. That means whatever the output which is generated from the sensor, maybe the signal will be very low or very less strength, but in order to make the signal to a very high strength, we will be using this amplifier circuit or the signal conditioning circuit, so that this will drive the information which is coming from the sensor to other parts. That is, say this is the IO, means input output part, and again this is a microcomputer, and this microcomputer is able to have a communication interface in order to send that to the other external environment. So if you can take a simple any IoT applications also, what is required first, you will be, suppose you can take an application of an agricultural IoT. So soil moisture sensors will be used in the agriculture. So you will be placing the soil moisture sensors and the fields, and then those sensors will be giving the information that how much soil is being present, what is the amount or what is the level of the soil in that particular field. So that information will be collected. Now the sensor alone cannot do anything, just it will sense the information which is present in that particular soil. But after that it has to transfer that information to various other units, and so that in a particular computer the other person will be watching the information, and according to that he can take some decision. But in the IoT, the computer itself will be taking a decision based on the soil level, based on the soil moisture content. If it is very less, then it has to sprinkle some water to increase the moisture content, and again otherwise it is okay. So this is nothing but there is a particular range of the soil to be measured. So it will check the range and it will be calibrated itself, and it will take a decision for making the communication and utilization of the data. So that is the reason nowadays most of the IoT applications are using the smart sensors, where once if you establish that, it will take the decision by itself. Hope you understand regarding the smart sensor. And similarly, an intelligent field devices the following properties. Okay, so what are the intelligent smart sensors will be consisting of? There are various properties. One is automatic ranging and calibration through a built-in digital system. So most of the cases you can see your water filters also. Okay, nowadays the automatic washing machines also. Once if you put a range for that, then automatically it will be able to do its operation. That is all nothing but the microcontroller applications or your embedded system applications. So like that, it consists of an automatic ranging and calibration. Calibration means what? If it is going beyond the range, if it is crossing the beyond the range, then automatically it has to control that and it has to bring to that particular limit. So both these facilities should be have through a built-in digital system. And similarly, auto acquisition and the storage of the calibration constants in the local memory of the field device. So auto acquisition, you know very well about the auto acquisition. That is the device which you are using has to support the software. It is nothing but an acquisition unit will be acting as data acquisition units will be placed wherever you will be having an interconnection or interfacing between the software and your hardware. So most of your instrumentation units will be consisting of this data acquisition unit. That means that particular data acquisition can support only for that unit. That means it can understand only for that particular instrument what it is able to do. What are the particular operations which is being undergone. So like that, you need to develop various types of the acquisition units and the storage of calibration constants in the local memory. That means in the acquisition unit, before developing itself, you will be able to store some calibration, so that when it meets with that, when it is going this particular range, then automatically it has to calibrate. So all these will be present inside the acquisition unit. And similarly, auto configuration and verification of the hardware for correct operation following the internal checks. So auto configuration, that means once if it is power on and off also, you have to check, or you have to able to configure itself. Oh my god, we are not told that. Okay, check mark now. Okay, good. See, I think I have discussed smart sensors, whether you have missed or not. Just I have discussed only this particular part where the smart sensors which is producing an electrical output, and it also has to have these facilities: ranging, calibration and decision making. And these are the internal structures for the smart sensors. It consists of the sensor interface, and it also consists of the actuator interface and signal condition, power amplifier and input output microcomputer and communication interfaces. All these are the different parts which are present inside the smart sensors. So just that's what I have explained, and this I am going to explain automatic ranging and calibration through a built-in digital system. Just now I told you that automatic ranging and calibration, once if you put the range for any device, then it has to set itself. When it is going beyond the range, it has to calibrate itself. And similarly, auto acquisition and storage, just now I told you, for each and every equipment you have to develop an auto acquisition which consists of all the storage constants or all the calibration constants. And similarly, auto configuration and verification of the hardware for correct operation following the internal checks. So internally there are various other parameters where from one device the input and the outputs has to transfer to the other device. So in that case, the auto configuration facility and the verification of the hardware for correct operation and the internal checks, all these has to make. And similarly, auto correction of the offsets, time and the temperature drifts. See, what happens is in this automatic facilities, whenever you are using smart sensors, so suddenly there will be an offset. So offset means what? When suddenly power will off and on, what happens? There will be some small voltage which is already present in that. So from that voltage also, if it is taken into consideration, then automatically that is called as an offset. So what happens again, depending on that offset voltage which is present, the calibration will be able to differ. So once if the calibration is not correct, then automatically your internal checks or the internal operation may not be accurate. So in order to prevent that, auto correction of the offsets, time and the temperature drifts all should be taken care of. And similarly, auto linearization of the nonlinear transfer characteristics and self-tuning control algorithms, fuzzy logic control. Fuzzy logic control is being increasingly used now. So self-tuning control algorithms has to be implemented, or sometimes fuzzy logic controls has to be implemented, so that whenever the characteristics are differing, then automatically it has to set itself. And similarly, control program may be locally stored or downloaded from a host system, and the dynamic reconfiguration is being performed. And control is implementable through a signal bus and a host system. And conditional monitoring is also used for the fault diagnosis, which in turn may involve additional sensors, digital signal processing and data analysis software, and the communication through a serial bus. So once if you want to implement the smart sensors, then that particular intelligent device should have all these following properties. Why? Because that itself, once it is established, then automatically it has to take a decision by itself depending on the data available. So it should not give any fault diagnosis. Okay, what happens depending on the conditioning monitoring? Always a weather condition reports will be there. So once if we establish that with the help of the smart weather sensors, then automatically each time it has to give an accuracy or accurate information. So for that it has to meet all these properties. Now coming to this, silicon thermosensors and the chemical sensors have also been produced. One of the example for the smart sensors, in order to establish that, just they have given a silicon thermosensor which is being indicated, but before that we will just see the standards for the smart sensor interface. So what are the standards we need to use? Now coming to this, the ultimate goal of the standards is to provide the means for achieving the transducer to network interchangeability and interoperability. So again comes to this interchangeability and interoperability. These two terms will be again pertaining to the IoT, that is Internet of Things. So what is this interoperability means? That means you have placed a sensor over one particular place to collect the information. Now after that, that sensor has to transfer the information to other parts. So say suppose it is transferring the information through some network. So when you are using the network, then whenever you are using either a wired network or wireless network, again that is different. And similarly, whenever you are using a wired network, then that particular wired network will be able to communicate from the sensor to the other device. And if it is a wireless network, then there are various types of the instruments which are being used to transfer the information from one network to the other network. And as you know that IoT is nothing but it is completely through the internet web world, it has to transfer the information. So whenever it is taking place, when these particular operations are being implemented, there is a lot of network which has been implemented. And you know that each and every network will be using different types of the devices. That means suppose if I want to send a WhatsApp message to you people, okay, so I don't know your names and I don't know where you will live, just simply I'll just send a message to you people. And then suppose I'm sending it through iPhone, and sometimes you will be having your Nokia phone or some other thing, then automatically I don't know that which device you are using there and what type of internet facility you are using it. But similarly, I'm also using some other internet on some other mobile device. That means my device is different, my network is different, but your device and your network is also different. But only through the internet it has to connect these two devices. So that facility is called as interoperability. So transducer to the network and interoperability facility. So in order to achieve all these standards for the sensors, you require some interface. So interface is always nothing but, remember, in order to connect some hardware and the software, you need to have an interfacing. Okay, and that interface will be taken care by the various types of the devices. Say suppose in the case of the network, how you are connecting the network to some TCP IP protocols, you will be able to communicate that network. But here the objectives are to define a set of common communication interfaces for connecting the transducers to the microprocessor based systems, instruments and field networks in a network independent environment. See, suppose nowadays almost all the thermal power stations, the gas stations, even each and every network stations, the person will be sitting at the home or somewhere and remotely he can access from the office whatever the using some address. Okay, he will be able to access the data. So this is all nothing but he is able to connect to the network. That means using it will show a scheme of communication which is using as either IEEE 1451 or using NCAP, that is Network Capable Application Processor information model, is intended for defining a common object model for the components of the smart transducer working in the networked mode, and also to develop the software interface specifications for them. So such an object model provides two interfaces. One is the transducer block with the details of transducer hardware implementation, and simple programming model. This resembles an input-output driver, and to the NCAP block and ports with the details of different network protocol implementation schemes. So this is called IEEE P1451.1. See, what do you understand is whenever you are connecting a transducer at one particular place, so it is performing some particular operation. But remotely, suppose I am sitting here only and I have to access the refrigerator, or I have to access the air conditioner in some other country. Okay, I think you might be seeing so many ads nowadays. Okay, in one of the ad, like he is controlling the air conditioner in other country. So that how that remote access is possible, that is all with respect to the IoT. So in order to use that, you need to know the scheme of communication, using which device or using which communication interfacing you have to connect. So that is called as the NCAP, Network Capable Application Processor. So if you know that particular processors, then you will be able to communicate from the far distance, and you will be able to install some that, and you can easily implement the connection between the hardware and the simple programmable model, which consists of the input output drivers. So always remember that in order to write a coding, what is coding here actually, what is a program? Set of instructions. So why you are writing a set of instructions? To perform a particular task here. So without any hardware or without anything, if you are simply writing the instructions, and if you are able to simulate that, there may be using a simulations, but Other than that, physical world will not be having any other use with that particular code or with that particular program. But if you are making, with respect to your code, if you are making any of your hardware device to function, then that will be having a real time application. Say most of the cases nowadays, people are trying to develop the oxygen concentrators, okay, where you will be having a lot of applications or lot of information which is provided for developing an oxygen concentrator. And for that also you need to definitely write some program, because when you place a finger on that, depending on the sensing of that, it has to able to communicate. So what parameters it has to display, okay, what is the range, what is the calibration, all these will be again coming under the category of a simple microprogrammer, where you will be writing the range and where you will be writing the calibration, and what happens when the finger sensor touches, what are the parameters you need to take care of for a normal oxygen level to be attained. All these has to feed that particular data into the oxygen oximeters or some other different types of the devices. So all these are nothing but called as your smart sensors. So there are lot of smart sensors available in your daily life. So you can just once go through the various types of the smart sensors also. And similarly, if you have any doubts, you can ask me now. As of now, we have covered the piezoelectric transducers, and we have covered Hall effect transducer and smart sensors. And as I told you that in the next class, we will complete the remaining part of the sensors which is being left. So as of now, I think this is enough. And still, if you have any doubts, you can communicate with me and you can ask. You can unmute your mics and then you can speak any one of them, because as I am new to you and you people are also new to me. So just let me know whether you are able to understand or not, so that I can proceed further in the next class. Yes, give some response. And I don't know the reason why only very few members has been attending the classes. Hardly 35 to 36 students are interested in the subject. Remaining they can write by your own or not. Yes, are you able to understand? Anyone can give the response? Okay, good. 2 students have responded. Okay, very good. And I'm having a very good expectations on you people. But the very first class, the senior attendance, even I'm getting shocked. I don't know what's the reason. Maybe some other internships or any other exams. If that is their genuine reason, it is okay. And try to recall the class, and I will be sending you the PPT presentation. And somebody asked me the link of that YouTube. I'll just paste it in the chat box. So this is the link for Hall effect transducer, and one more also I will be showing you. See, why I made this videos is, as this is a very first class, so within 1 or 2 classes I have to cover the unit. So in order to understand those things, I found that it is very easy if you are learning in this way.